Hello and welcome to Talks. I'm Kimberley Dondo, and in today's episode, I'm joined by
Rory McLaren, CTO at Dynamic Planner.
Dan Cooper, Deputy Editor of Money Marketing.
Tom Browne, Editor of Money Marketing.
So yes, today our special guest is Rory, and we're going to be talking all about AI and Agentic AI. I never know where to put the emphasis. Is it Agentic, I don't know. I feel like Rory, you can probably delve more into that and other things, obviously. But before that, could you give us a bit of background into yourself and what you do at Dynamic Planner?
Yeah, so I've been in technology for probably too long now, over 30 years. I've had a game of three halves, really. Started in software engineering, was a developer, architect, consultant, and then I went into startup mode. Co-founder a startup, was a CTO there through the global financial crisis, which made it quite interesting. And then got acquired by the German stock exchange and spent 8 years there. And I guess there drifted more towards the business, product, commercial side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Did a little bit of due diligence, looked at acquisitions, that type of thing. And more recently, I've been in a scale-up where we raised $54 million in Series A, and now I'm at Dynamic Planner, helping them expand into the enterprise space, serving our enterprise customers that we have at the moment, and obviously adopting AI in the company and in the product.
Right. So you've seen pretty much every angle of tech. So what actually separates tech innovation that succeeds in regulated financial services from what fails?
Yeah, so if I take two of the organizations I was at, Impendium was our startup.
Mm-hmm.
We had no budget, we had no staff, we had no product, we had no reputation to
Okay.
begin with. Whereas at Deutsche Börse, we were 10,000 staff,
Mm-hmm.
market infrastructure, so very different ends of the spectrum for that point of view. Both of those really gave the same message, though, interestingly, in that you had to be very intentional about applying the innovation. It had to be for the business purpose. So there was no room really to experiment with technology just for technology's sake. At Impendium, necessity was the mother of invention, really. We had limited budget. We had to focus on the client's needs on a really short time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at Deutsche Börse, we had the budget, but we had a reputation and an expectation on what to focus on and how to deliver and how profitable that would be. So both of those made me focus innovation on the specific client's need. Sometimes it can go wrong where in technology we're sometimes guilty of exploring the latest fad, getting on a bandwagon, going down a rabbit hole, playing with technology for technology's sake.
Yeah.
Both of those organizations in different ways made me focus on what does it deliver for the business. And I think that's the primary area that innovation can go wrong,
Mm-hmm.
when you forget that mission and purpose.
Yeah.
Just before we go any further, can I just ask you, in layman's terms, to explain exactly what we mean when we talk about agentic AI? Because I think we talk about AI all the time in financial services and financial advice.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of advisors are still getting to grips with it. And now agentic AI comes along and it's... So could you just explain what we mean by agentic AI and kind of how it differs from normal AI?
Yep. So I guess a layman's term is this is AI trying to achieve an outcome, trying to complete some activity for you, with that prescribed description, a plan of activity. So rather than you saying do A, B, C for me, which might be automation or delegation to an intern,
Mm-hmm.
in an agentic AI situation, we're looking at working towards an outcome with it necessarily given it all those steps. The agentic part, it's a bit self-defining, but it's got agency.
Yeah.
So it can go and take action in the world. It can recover from failure. It can formulate a plan and then adapt that plan. A lot of circumstances now, agents are learning from their mistakes.
Yeah.
They've got some type of context or memory that they can go back to and refer to and say, the last time I tried to do that, it didn't work. So maybe we'll try an alternative this time. Now that obviously in a financial situation, that can be a challenge because we don't have a prescribed method that's been reviewed and approved. And that's, I guess, what brings in the challenge and the worry about how agentic AI will perform in a regulated environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that so agentic AI, it's sort of intelligent AI, if you want. It's learning, it's adaptable AI. We're having this conversation on Friday, the 31st of July, and there's been a lot in the news about Anthropic's AI tools breaking free
and
from the sandbox and hacking and getting free.
companies.
In a way that speaks to everyone's sort of nightmare about AI, the sort of like the Terminator 2 and things like this. Obviously, I don't want to have be alarmist about this or things like that, but I think people do have a lot about worries about AI, both in terms of, are we in control of it? And then also the classic ones that people have been having over and over again about, job loss or where is it going to sort of inveigle itself where we don't want it to. I mean, given all the fuss and the news and the noise about all of that, sort of where do you stand on the potentials versus the hazards of AI, agentic AI in particular?
Yeah, I think if we look at the example that has been announced today about Anthropic, there was one a short time ago about the same thing happening at OpenAI.
Yeah.
In both of those circumstances, specifically the OpenAI one, the agentic AI had been given a task, which was to go and try and break into different organizations and find out
You can't really blame
information.
it.
It's just doing
its job.
And I'd been given an environment where they had said, this is a sandbox that's been locked down. And actually, through human misconfiguration, it had found its way out. It had exploited some zero-day exploits in order to hop across some boundaries. But in that respect, it was being asked to do its overall outcome. No one had expected that it would go and do what it did to try and achieve that outcome. But in the same respect, no one had said, and don't do that. Don't break into GitHub and look for this information that might help give the answer. With Anthropic, they've said today in the news that the environment was misconfigured. And as a result, the agents went and did something. It's not spontaneously coming up with this. It's being driven by a prompt. And Anthropic has mentioned today about the learning experience and, that they're treating this like their responsibility to deal with. I don't mean that to sound like I'm hedging, but in a lot of respects, it's the human here that has set the prompt, set the guardrails, set the instructions, and the AI has simply gone off and followed those instructions. The problem is this AI has great agency. It has great tool use. And so it becomes really important now. If you imagine having a super powerful intern and you ask them to go and do something and they come back with 10,000 copies of something photocopied within minutes and you're like, I didn't quite give you the right instructions there.
Yeah, we've all had that experience.
It's that thing that's happening here. It's just that the agent is so superly powerful. So it points towards the responsibility of the human understanding how to prompt, what guardrails to have in place, how to give least privilege. So if an AI needs a tool, then you give it the limited version of the tool to do exactly what it needs to do, nothing more. And then you don't have this risk of it going off and using its own initiative to try and find a way around problems that it might encounter, which then leads to behaviour that isn't what you expected.
Yeah, have to sort of steer it in the right direction and tell it what to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we were talking about earlier, fads and crazes, it's very easy to get swept up in this whole AI chat. Agentic AI, I mean, what can it do for advisors? How exciting, how endless are the possibilities with this? Because at the moment, we're using AI for things like transcribing meeting notes, fact finding. It's saving time, but I think it's fair to say at the moment it's maybe not being used to its full potential. So how exciting is this, and what can it do for advisors that AI can't?
The short answer is I think it's very exciting. I think there's a lot that we can do for advisors across lots of different industries. A lot of it comes back to first principles thinking, I would say. So what are you trying to achieve, and how can you offload aspects of that to a very intelligent, very capable intern that has access to vast amounts of data, that can go and look at timely data. So if you think about an annual review process, an AI could look at all of the classical data that has been captured for that client around their portfolio, their investments, their lifestyle, their family status, these types of things. It's quite, strict, regimented data that advisors would normally have captured. But it can go and look at transcripts of correspondence and emails and bring in context, the type of information that an advisor with a 40-year relationship might know: your favorite football team, or where you like to go on holiday, or your favorite restaurant. And it can bring all this context together to formulate a much broader view, a much richer view. Equally, it could go and look at your portfolio and understand, how has this been affected by geopolitical circumstances, or sort of annual renewal of a prime minister. How has that affected your particular portfolio? It can synthesize all that data in a way that's relevant to that particular client. So hyper-personalisation of that. We hear a lot about trying to get AI to talk in a brand voice. Well, what if the AI was actually speaking in the client's voice, presenting in the way that was most appropriate to each individual, so that they could appreciate the information, act upon it, really land the message as opposed to just deliver the information. And all of that can be done sort of just in time, accurately, for review by the advisor. And they've still got the human in the loop choice to say, well, I'm going to leverage some of that data. Some of it I don't think is appropriate. I'll leave it behind. But it can be done at a scale and at a cost that frees up that advisor to still have the trust and the human relationship, which is, the fundamental thing that they can bring.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose a bit like our new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, it's about separating the hype from the reality a little bit. And I mean, you've sort of previously led work on quantum technology, for example, and I've had lots and lots of meetings where but they say, well, quantum computing in the future, that's going to be, it's a bit like fusion energy. It's going to be this new thing that's going to be absolutely change everything. And I suppose distinguishing sort of credible use case from hype, I suppose, are there lessons there that should make firms a bit more disciplined when it comes to their approach to agentic AI in terms of what it can do and what it can't do?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to caveat up front that I was not the quantum expert in the room.
I don't think any of us are quantum.
I
understand.
Is there such a thing?
There are my colleagues at EOS Quantum in Frankfurt were very much the experts in the room. But it's interesting because I think it distills to the same outcome, but from two opposite ends. In quantum, capacity was very scarce. We were thinking about use cases that we couldn't actually run because we didn't have quantum computers that were big enough. We still don't have quantum computers that are big enough. It is that perennial chat of, when this lands, the things that we'll be able to do with quantum, but we're always just a few years away for that next breakthrough. AI at the other end is almost like capability overabundance. We've got so much that we can do with AI. It's picking the use case and understanding where does it add value. So it's two separate ends of the spectrum, but it points towards the same thing about identifying the use case, identifying the value, and understanding, do I really need AI here? Is it adding value? Is it something that is, Marty Kagan, who's a big Silicon Valley product expert, talks about valuable, viable, feasible, usable. in tech, we're only ever worried about feasible. Can I build this?
Mm-hmm.
We forget about, will they use it? Is it valuable to the end user? Is it actually profitable for us to build this thing? I've seen examples before where we've prototyped AI features and said, this works and it's 2% better than our traditional method, but it's 35x in cost. So why would you?
Yeah.
So that's the key thing, I think, being intentional about selecting the use case and understanding it. It should have ever been thus, but with AI, there's so many things it can do. That's the first step. Do we really need this here? And is it adding value for the end client?
You mentioned earlier about prompts and about data. So two of the key things enabled to get AI or agentic AI to perform. How much more important is getting those prompts and that data right for agentic AI in order for it to fully work properly?
Yeah. So there's a model and an analogy here that Sequoia Capital use. So they talk about it, agentic AI almost like a human. So the models are the mind.
Yeah.
The limbs are the tool use. So the hands and the feet, being able to go off and look at a calendar or book a restaurant or whatever. And the body is the sort of harness that brings all of this together. So the frontier labs like OpenAI and Anthropic, they're developing these models at a frightening pace. It completely breaks Moore's law. We're seeing inference halving in cost every 2.8 months. So that's almost a solved problem, right? The tool usage, that's where you need to be careful in terms of allowing AI to connect up to your email and just, send anything to anybody. That's part of the risk here that you need to be mindful of. But really the thing that brings it together is this harness of the body of the mind, the skill, the memory. If you think about, you can take a fresh set of limbs and mind, and with a certain set of skills and training, you can turn it into a ballerina. But also you could turn it into a powerlifter. Very different things.
Yeah.
And it's that context and skill and behavior and learning from experience that makes those distinctions. So that bit is becoming core. The tool usage is leveraging what we've had for the last 20, 40 years, okay? Lots of traditional tools in the marketplace that you can connect AI up to. It's really about how you give it this context, clean data, but intentional instructions around how you want it to proceed, where the boundaries are, where it should just say, no, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Really important in advice and finance.
Yeah.
I also, going back to that data piece, I'm always a bit skeptical, I guess, about the use of people's data and how is that something that maybe advisors would have to have a conversation with their clients saying, are you okay with me feeding this into? And then how much of that data you would feed into an AI model? Is there restrictions to that? I know the FCA is probably looking into that currently, but what like barriers are in place currently?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I don't think it's just on the advisor. You can't outsource regulatory responsibility, but you can make it easier in the chain to evidence that you're taking that seriously. We're used to, in data security, having ISO 27001 as a standard that firms can say, look, we comply with this, and so you know that your data is safe with us, when people start moving things to the cloud. In the AI space, we've now got a similar ISO 42001, which firms can show, vendors can show, I'm taking this AI management seriously. I'm managing AI systems. We have an AI charter that you can see how we deal with the data that is provided to AI. And the frontier labs provide these model cards that will tell you how the model will act on the data, how it will behave. So there's a lot there that advisors can benefit from in the stack. But if you have that security and safety in place and you're intentional about how you do that, then sharing the data is, again, whether it's appropriate in the process. We're used to GDPR in terms of the data being captured for a specific purpose. This is no different. It's just a new context, a new environment, a new set of tools, and a new way of thinking about it that we have to consider.
Right.
So it's a problem that we've seen before, we've solved before,
Mhm.
and we know how to. It's a new lens now that we're looking at it through this AI mechanism.
Yeah, you mentioned your AI charter, and I think you've argued that the more autonomous an AI system sort of becomes, the more important its governance becomes. But I suppose what controls should an advice firm insist upon before allowing sort of an AI agent to take action rather than simply making suggestions? And I suppose there's a question there about where accountability lies in the end.
Yep. I think accountability still lies with the advisor, but as I said, they can leverage the evidence at other parts in the chain. Certainly, I would be looking for indication of which models, how are you selecting an appropriate model, which tools are being used, what privileges are you giving those tools? So if I need to send an email, I need email sending permissions. I don't need to be able to read email. I don't need to be able to read calendars or anything like that. How is it all composed together? Understanding that aspect of it. There are various technical things we can put in place. So guardrails that prevent models going beyond certain behaviors, using specific language, not being biased, not using profanity, not giving a cocktail recipe when you're trying to give financial advice. All of these things are built into typically the way cloud service providers provide the models. One of the things that is quite well understood, I guess, in software development is you design the code, you build the code, and you test the code. In an AI world, evaluations are the new test. And because a model can give a different answer each time, you can no longer say 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a transcript of this podcast. Well, if you do that 5 times, you're going to get 5 slightly different transcriptions with 5 slightly different sets of language. So how do we say that the transcription is good enough? Well, an evaluation is how you do that. To do evaluations, you need to have a rich data set, and you need to have an expert that can validate and say, yeah, I've run 10,000 transcriptions and it looks like the model's getting it right now. So that's the new QA that needs to happen, and the advisors would be asking, well, how is this feature, how is this service being evaluated? How can you demonstrate that this will actually work in production for all those myriad different cases, transcribing, tricky Scottish accents? How's that going to work? It's very easy to show an AI demo that works on that single happy path.
Yeah.
But what an advisor needs confidence of is when I put it into the wild, it's going to work in the 10,000. And that's where the evals can show we've looked at this across a broad spectrum because we've got a broad set of data. And so you can now be confident about that.
Yeah, well, no profanity or cocktail of making you never get on with a journalist.
Yeah.
I wonder where you see AI going, especially in terms of ownership of work over the next couple of years. Like, what should the humans in the loop be doing versus the actual AI agents?
I think this is like the $1 million question. And the good news is it's not limited to advisors.
Right.
Every discipline that uses knowledge is asking this question. So there's a lot of insight coming out of software development, right? Because what we're finding is crusty old developers like me have had 30 years of writing the code. They're now calling it raw dogging. If you just sit with a laptop, just straight write code. It seems like
very old school.
Very, very old school now, right? Lawyers, regulators even will find this in the future. And the question is, again, it really comes back to intent here. So just because an AI can do something, does that mean it should do that thing? If we optimize purely for commercial profit, then you're beginning to see people getting AI burnout. Because if we say that the AI takes away all of the stuff at the bottom of the barrel, the boring, drudge admin work, then that means that you're always operating at full gas. You've now got no break in the day where you're just going to file some emails or respond back saying thanks. There's no downtime like that, cognitive downtime, right? So we're finding that software developers are getting cognitive overload because the AI can operate so fast. They can have tens of agents writing code, and they're the human in the loop looking to say, yep, that's fine, approve, approve, approve. But they're not actually mixing up the cognitive tasks anymore. So the same for an advisor. If all that admin work, the basics, the research, the collating and synthesizing data is taken away, they're always operating at the top of their game, 8 hours a day, which can be incredibly fatiguing. So we're going to have to make sure that we intentionally blend the work that we choose to give AI so that there is those gaps. Otherwise, if you look at the long-term sort of total cost of ownership, we're going to burn senior expert people out because of that AI usage. The other flip on it is there's nowhere for junior people to get their experience. Those basic tasks that you get that are safe, they're being removed away. So where does a senior lawyer come from in 20 years' time, or a senior journalist?
That's true.
Right?
No, well, it's absolutely true. I mean, that's the sort of the more that part of it is the more familiar argument to me. It's that sort of like where do you do your learning? Like, you know, we could get like a young intern in now, give them a writing assignment. They could put it straight through ChatGPT and hand it back, but it's kind of like you've not gone on that journey,
And done the research.
done the research, done the learnings of this, that, and the other that will not only increase your knowledge but make you a better writer as well. But the first point you made about the sort of the fatigue is not one I considered before.
No, me neither.
It's a little bit like sort of if you automated making a cup of tea, for example. Okay, that's fine. Maybe that's an admin task, but it's a break in the day. For me, I break away from, I make a cup of tea, I do it myself, and, you know, it's a change of pace.
You change the focal length. You stand at the window and look out. You know, sometimes we don't know how the human mind works, but sometimes flashes of inspiration come because you've changed your environment, you've changed your habit. You can... You know, in software development, we talk about, you know, a cardboard cutout developer. You explain what you've been trying to do to a cardboard cutout, and in explaining it, you solve the problem. So often you get a colleague to come over and say, "Let me just show you what I've been doing," and they say nothing but solve the problem. Sometimes you go to a colleague and say, "I'm trying to explain this concept, and I'm thinking about this analogy, and it's just not landing." And they say nothing, but the act of doing that gives you a moment of inspiration. If we've got AI doing all of these things, where is that time for human inspiration and innovation and that sparky creativity? So we have to be quite intentional. There is a challenge there that there's an arms race that if a firm decides we're not going to do that, it's all about commercial outcomes, then everybody has to be there. But I think for the sake of sort of humanity, not to sound too grand, we have to work out how to intentionally do this stuff. And sometimes the making the cup of tea isn't about the cup of tea. It's about the walk, it's the interaction, we haven't articulated that.
Usually ends up being quite disappointing. It's everything else around.
Never know, ChatGPT might make a better cup of tea.
No.
You never know.
It actually kind of relates to a weekend essay I wrote a couple months ago on whether AI is making us dumber, which I read a couple of scientific articles which were edited using AI, by the way.
All very meta.
But they did say that when they'd done a test with a group of people who used AI before doing a test versus those who kind of raw dogged it, like you said, their brains weren't firing at full capacity, and they found that I guess the usage of their brain was less, and that brain elasticity lessened. So yeah, I think it is important to still have that agency to do those tasks because Yeah, even though sometimes I don't want to deal with an email, I think it's important that I actually do. Mostly for my own memory, because what am I actually replying to? What am I agreeing to?
And we can, we can still benefit from AI and use it in these senses. So we're talking about having a sort of Socratic mode for some of the tools that we've got internally.
Mm,
So you can switch it into that mode, and rather than solving the problem, it will coach you through solving the problem.
right, yeah.
I've got a critique where I deliberately don't use AI.
Mhm,
I write it all myself.
mhm,
I've given it a context of how I want to portray something,
mhm.
things I want to avoid. I don't want to lead with an Instagram sort of hook,
Yeah.
all of that. But I write it myself. I raw dog it out,
Mhm.
and then I bring the AI and say, right, critique that against the rules that I've written myself, and keep me honest to what I've said that I want to do. It's like you're going to lose them there if you mention logical qubits and Shor's algorithm in quantum computing, right? I have mentioned it now, but as a
Tell me
counter,
more.
as a counter to the fact that my AI said you're writing for an audience, and so don't bring in things that the audience are going
Don't
to.
get too nerdy.
Yeah, exactly. So we can still benefit from AI, even if it isn't doing the task. It can be there as a safety net. Have you
Mhm.
thought about this? Have you checked that? You told me that you always want to make sure you cover these 10 points.
Right.
Have you done that, right? Without actually losing the creativity of writing it yourself in the first place
Mm.
and getting it wrong in order to practice and understand and develop your sense of taste, right? If you never actually do it, what's your taste now? It's been your criteria and your sense has been outsourced to AI.
Mm.
So I think it's about intention on how you choose to use this, understanding how you can use this,
Mhm.
but then being intentional so as that you get the benefits of AI, but you still get the benefits of the human, and you're
Right.
building that human up over time, either because they're junior or you're not making their sort of eyes bleed as a senior person, just getting hit with, requests to review in depth and approve at the speed of AI.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're getting towards the end of this podcast, which is truly fascinating, and I probably would have 1,000 more questions for you, Rory. But before we go, I thought, is there anything you wanted to mention? Anything you're excited that you're currently working on? Any previews or spoilers that you might be allowed to tell us?
No spoilers, I'm
Yeah.
afraid. As Dr. Riversong says, no spoilers.
Oh, damn.
There will be stuff in the very near future that I can talk about, but no spoilers at the moment.
Mhm.
The pace is unrelenting.
Right.
The rate of change with AI and its capabilities. We're seeing these first sort of Skynet announcements with OpenAI and Anthropic.
Yeah.
It's not a case of years or decades.
Mhm.
Dario Amodi wrote an article about Watched Over by Machines, A Loving Grace, and talked about making centuries worth of progress
Mhm.
in the next 5 to 7 years.
Wow.
And when you start to think like that and about the transformation of that, it's either exciting, scary, or scary, exciting. I choose to look on the former, but I think we're going to see an awful lot of change, an awful lot of disruption, but it's in our hands to make it positive change and positive disruption.
Right.
In this space, the big thing is being able to unlock trusted advice. There's millions of UK citizens that can't afford to get advice
Right.
because of the cost to provide it,
Mhm.
the admin, the regulatory demand associated with that. And so if through AI we can, bring that advice to the masses, unlock trusted advice,
Mhm.
then, that will be, I think, a very valid and valuable legacy of AI.
Mm.
Much better than writing country and western songs for my kids or writing poems that, name mammals A to Z.
So true.
Well, that's
if,
quite cool.
That
as well.
sounds great.
Yeah.
if we can if we can leverage it for some of these societal challenges, then that'll be, a great
net
thing.
positive. Yeah. I've seen far too many short videos of fruit, AI fruit, and I would rather have help with my finances, frankly. But yes, thank you so much for joining us today, Rory. This was really a great conversation.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Cheers so much.